Coming up in this Brightline construction update. This update looks at spot tie replacement. I came across the crew doing this work at the location of the former Pineda South turnout near Century Boulevard in Melbourne. Spot tie replacement is the process of replacing ties that have reached the end of their lifespan. There are a variety of reasons that concrete ties need to be replaced, including the start of cracking, rebar being exposed, fasteners failing, and just being broken in half. The work begins with a tie crane distributing new, low-profile concrete ties next to each of the ties being replaced. These ties differ from the standard concrete ties used in new construction by having a slimmer profile on top, making them easier to slide into place under the rail without humping the tracks. Behind the tie crane is a trip machine, which is what actually pulls out the old tie and pushes a new one in. Working in front of the whole tie gang earlier in the day are a few crew members removing the old fasteners to allow the tie to be removed. Following the trip machine is another tie crane picking up the old ties. It will then take them to a central location nearby to stockpile them until they are picked up for disposal. More crew members then follow, tightening down the new fasteners. A small Mark II tamper was behind the crane, doing an initial pass on each of the new ties. Behind all of this is a tamper and regulator surfacing set, tamping around each new tie and redressing the ballast. This allows the tracks to be restored to normal speeds following the day's work without the need for slow orders. This crew is also beginning some of the final surfacing work since the Mark II was also working this day. The Florida East Coast Railway was unique as up until the late 1990s, they actually manufactured their own ties. The ties they produced have a lifespan of 50 to 75 years on average, which is much longer than the 7 to 10 years most railroads get out of wood ties on heavy service main lines. Some of these ties were originally produced in the late 60s and early 70s, so their time has come. Because of their long lifespan, this is the first significant tie project to occur on the FEC in decades. A second trip machine was working in front, primarily removing old ties and inserting a few ties that had previously been laid out. Here it is removing a few old wood ties that were left over from the previous turnout that had been here. The whole tire replacement process began several weeks prior when representatives from the FEC, Brightline, and the construction contractor HSR Constructors walked the track in this area, identifying ties to be replaced, which they did by spray painting the ties. The Federal Railroad Administration has standards for the number of defective ties for each class of track, getting more stringent as speeds increase. These standards include the number of ties consecutively in a row, as well as the number of ties over a certain distance that can be defective without having to reduce speeds with a slow order until repaired. With the increase of the FEC mainline from Class 4 track to Class 6 track for the 110 mph speeds, the previous acceptable amount no longer applied, which necessitated work on this scale. A little while later, a high-rail material truck delivered new ties from a nearby stockpile to create smaller piles that the front tie crane can replenish its supply from. In this area, both tracks needed work completed, since the Western Main Line had previously been the Pineda siding track. That work had been completed during the previous week. For most of the railroad, this crew only needs to work on the single, existing mainline track. Here are a couple of crew members working to remove the old fasteners on the ties to be replaced. You can see the trim machine slightly lift the track so the tie can be pulled out underneath. Here, the lead tie crane is replenishing its stock from one of the piles the material truck left behind. Here's that Jackson 6700 tamper at work behind the tie crew. By the time construction wraps up on the Orlando expansion, all of FEC's existing mainline between Cocoa and West Palm Beach will have had tie replacement completed, just like what is going on here. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like button and subscribe. Also check out my social media pages.